shot to fame around the world in 1990 with her hit single Nothing Compares to You, and then released 10 studio albums. In a statement, her family said that they were devastated and asked for privacy. And the Irish Taoiseach, Leo Varadkar, has just paid tribute, saying her talent was unmatched and beyond compare. Well, we're joined now by the Irish broadcaster and music journalist, Dave Fanning. Dave Fanning, thank you very much for coming on the programme. This really is very sad news, isn't it? Do we know how she died? She was only 56.
No, I don't know any details because I only know what I know in the last hour or so, and it really is terribly sad indeed. I mean, Sinead was just completely and absolutely one of a kind. She was absolutely amazing, really talented. You mentioned 10 albums. Some of the albums in the middle were slightly dodgy, I thought, but the first few, and particularly the last two, absolutely brilliant. She went back to some great pop music with the last few, and she also has an album ready to go as well with the Belfast musician David Holmes. But also in between times, I mean, Sinead was just her own person. She would never have anything like regret or anything like that. It was always to do with her own ambition and success, and there was a depravity there. If you read her autobiography, it's quite frightening, some of it, but there's redemption through the whole thing. She doesn't need anybody to tell her anything. And by the way, just remember that what she did in with Saturday Night Live back in the early 90s and tore up a picture of the Pope, 10 years later, she was so prescient. Everything she had said, everything she was trying to say came true.
I can see that you're very upset because you knew her really well. You interviewed her dozens of times. We can actually show that clip of her on Saturday Night Live now. Yeah, that's it. Tearing up the picture of the Pope, the then Pope, John Paul II. I mean, there was that incredibly powerful voice that really broke through, but also she broke through the kind of nostrums of Irish society like few other artists, didn't she?
Like nobody else. It is astonishing what she did. It really is. I mean, like, Sinead got involved in certain things to do with religion that I thought, where's she going now? She was a priest one day and a nun the next, etc. But some of the things she actually did, some of the barriers she broke down, some of the sort of no regrets in terms of what she was saying, it turned out to be, as I say, quite prescient. It turned out to be just true, and people weren't ready to listen to it at first.
And how did Irish society respond to that?
Well, Irish society, in terms of, let's break it into two age groups, the younger ones, absolutely. And by younger now, I suppose I really mean under 45. Yeah. The older ones, maybe not so, because at the time they just thought, I mean, there was a documentary made about Sinead recently, and we were about to make a documentary. We were up in our house recently, and I won't use a bad word, but she said, look, most people said I was just bat crazy, absolutely mad. And I said, yeah, Sinead, what's the thing about that? Look, I know I am. Let's just make this documentary kind of thing, you know? And like, she was just lovely. She really was great. She really was.
So there she was, you know, tearing up a picture of the Pope, but she also went on an extraordinary spiritual journey, didn't she? I mean, several conversions, including one to Islam.
Absolutely. In fact, the one to Islam is the last one. Yeah, it is indeed. She changed her name completely, wore the hijab most of the time. One of the last times we were up in her second house, the one around Roundwood in County Wicklow, she says, look, I only sometimes wear it. You know, there she was, chain smoking, the usual Sinead in so many ways. But yeah, she went through so many religious journeys that I frankly couldn't follow her at all.
And, you know, a lot of mental health issues, which she wrote about with extraordinary honesty, but also humour in her autobiography. Tell us about that. Tell us about those mental health issues. And, of course, also the very sad, tragic death of her son.
Her son, Shane, died recently. Yeah, that's right. And one of the first, in fact, the only time she's been seen out in public since then was about 3 months ago for the Mercury Music Prize in England. It's called the Choice Music Prize here. And I had to give her an award on stage at the Rock venue here in Dublin, which was for her second album, because the award was for classic album. And when she came out on stage, I know this is going to sound like a cliche, but the whole audience just wanted to embrace her. The smile on her face, she just felt really good that night. And you would always think that, you know, well, maybe things are good because she has an album already made, ready to come out and all the rest of it. But I don't know what happened in the last hour or so. I've only heard it's frightening. I mean, like, her documentary was very revealing. It was very, very funny. And it's very heartbreaking too.
It's so heartbreaking. As a friend of hers and as someone who admired and understood her music, how would you like us to remember her?
Well, I think the way Sinead will be remembered is twofold. Number one, the first two albums. And obviously, like, okay, Prince wrote the song, but it's the greatest love song of all time, maybe. And it's her song. It is definitely her song. And I think you know the one I'm talking about. And also, secondly, just in terms of the fearlessness, just in terms of how she went out there all the time, believed in everything she was doing, wasn't always right, and absolutely no regrets at all.
Right. No regrets. Dave Fanning, thank you very much indeed. Sorry for your loss.
Thanks, man.